Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Film Seizure. I am Jeff Arbuckle. With me, as always, Jason Oliver. Jason, how goes it?
Hey, it goes pretty well. Pretty good. Yeah.
Cool. Chuck, how's it going with you? Chuck
Going
Moore.
great, man. Going great.
All right. That's Jason Oliver, Chuck Moore. I am Jeff Arbuckle. This is Film Seizure. And this week, one that I liked a whole lot back in 1991. And I think I still like it a whole lot. And I think my two cohorts agree with me on this. And that is Cape Fear from Martin Scorsese. Remake of a 1962 movie called Cape Fear, but based on a novel that was called something else.
The Executioners.
The Executioners, that's right.
By James R. Webb.
Nice.
Yeah, the name Cape Fear. This may be in the Wikipedia document. I don't know, but I read an interview with Peck where he said that he didn't like the Executioners as a name. He's like, so I'm just going to follow the river in Florida and see if I can come up with an interesting locale name because locale names work as movies. And he found Cape Fear.
Yeah, it's a pretty good name. The Executioners is apt. I'm assuming they're referring to the trap at the end, like with
probably
Baker and all that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The non-Executioners.
I like Cape Fear a lot better.
Yeah, it's a good name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cape Fear River is a 191.08 mile long Blackwater River in east central North Carolina, and it flows into the Atlantic Ocean near Cape Fear, from which it takes its name. So there you go. It traverses about half of North Carolina.
Pretty good.
Yes. So this was one I saw in the theater when it came out. I don't know if my mom took me to it or if it was one of those situations where it's like she wrote me a note and I gave it to the box office person. The box office person, I don't care. Go in. You're paying your money.
I have a note.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it came out when I was 14.
Did you always present the note first, or did you?
No, I usually didn't. Normally, what would happen is my mom would just buy the ticket and then just give it to me, and I went inside.
The world was a better place when you could do things based on notes from your parents.
Yeah, it was. It was called Our Childhood.
You could go to the convenience store and buy a pack of smokes for your mom.
Yep.
Get the Pall Malls they wanted.
Virginia Slims.
Hilarious.
But anyway, yeah. So this is we kind of mentioned this last week. It is a pretty intense little thriller here that really gets rolling right away. And the adapted score by
Elmer Bernstein. Yeah, adapted the Herman score. Yeah.
And it is
it's a banger.
It's really good, but it really puts you on the it puts you on your defensive.
Well, that's a smart move because the music is pretty iconic.
Mm-hmm.
The music from the original Cape Fear is probably more famous than the original Cape Fear, I would argue, before the remake was made. It's used in all sorts of scoring of trailers and things, right? And the adapted music was used even more in trailers afterwards. Bernard Herrmann, made some pretty iconic music. So that was pretty smart on Marty's point to let's just update the score because we already have something there. When you have music like that can drive and propel your movie, you're already like ahead of the game.
Right. And I mean, this is really, this is a movie with, I think, fairly perfect cast for this, because you've got kind of a smarmy Nick Nolte at kind of his height, at his in his prime, who's kind of playing this kind of slick lawyer who will skirt some rules a lot. And you've got and like, I mean, his boss is Fred Thompson. Like,
Yeah.
Senator Fred Thompson.
yeah, I mean, that's pretty perfect. You've got his wife is Jessica Lange. You've got Juliette Lewis, but I mean, it's Robert De Niro's movie.
Oh,
He
yeah,
is
absolutely.
swinging for the fences in this movie.
Oh my goodness, his yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah, he is.
He's outstanding, and Juliette Lewis is outstanding.
She's really good too. I've got a
She was
lot
nominated.
to say.
She was nominated
Yeah.
as well, wasn't
They
she?
were the only two nominations, Robert De Niro and
Was this
Juliette
her?
Lewis.
This wasn't her debut, was it?
No.
Was she already? Was Christmas Vacation before this? Probably. Was.
Yes.
Yeah. It's close to like early career. I think she was only 16 or 17 when
17, I think, when it came out, but maybe 16
shot
when
at
it
16.
filmed,
Yeah.
which is kind of weird with some of the scenes, but yeah.
It was she was 18 when it came out, but 17 when it was shot.
When it was shot. Okay. We
I
should
don't
also
know, maybe.
mention. We should also mention that Martin Scorsese, a man of film history, knew what he was doing when he had Saul Bass do the title sequence as well, right? I mean, the jagged edged title cards and actor cards, right, is all very Saul Bass, but also reminiscent of Psycho.
Yeah.
That the imagery behind the title, and the opening credits is all just like very kind of surreal on the water.
Yeah.
It's distorted by the water, and a lot of the imagery, I didn't realize this, was taken from Saul Bass's original ending to Phase 4. So Jeff's going to talk about The Simpsons again. I'm going to bring up Phase 4 again. I thought that was fascinating. I think this might have been Saul Bass's last title sequence also before he passed.
And it's also, the movie is shot by Freddie Francis.
Yes.
Who has shown up all over the place in stuff I've done in the past.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's shown up on a lot of our stuff that we've done. Yeah.
But the no, and I like the water because it does. I mean, like, that's where it ends. It ends on the water.
Mm-hmm.
But I also look at it as it's the attitude of Nick Nolte's character that everything he did in the past is just water under the bridge. When it will come back and bite you in the fucking ass.
Yep.
Real bad. Because he does something that's actually, while it's a tough thing because legally it's wrong. But maybe morally it was the right thing to do.
It's a philosophical discussion for sure.
Yeah, because it's like either let the guy out or
but it was certainly something that should get him disbarred.
Absolutely. No, he's not going to be a lawyer after this movie.
Right. And that should be the choice, right?
Right.
He if he were to get disbarred, he should accept that because what he did was wrong.
Yeah.
And not becoming or legal of a lawyer. It's like he broke his oath, right? As a lawyer. And but at the same time it's like people break rules like that for a greater moral cause. Yeah. And in his mind he was doing the right thing morally, but he should accept the consequences for that. At least legal consequences. Max Cady, while yes, was wronged, did wrong, and is a bad man, which we do find out. There's no blurring of the lines there. Like,
no.
They kind of put that idea to rest early that no. He deserves no sympathy. He actually is a bad man. Yeah.
Yes. And this is kind of a rare movie where maybe not rare, but like most of the time when you see a movie about a guy who is a bad guy and he beats up mostly women, he rapes women, all of it. Most of the time when you see a character like that in the movie, they're usually some sort of a cartoonish character or a caricature of what a gang would be, like a member of a gang. he's just doing stuff because he's bad. No, this guy is more realistic than that. He is bad, like, to the core. Like, he is a evil character. And most movies, when you think of characters being bad guys, they're not guys like this. They're not like, you don't feel very, this character makes me feel scared. And because this is more realistic than your typical movie.
It's like Gandolfini from not Natural Born Killers, the other movie we just did.
True Romance. I was gonna say Frank Booth from Blue Velvet. It makes me feel like
Same.
Frank Booth. Yep.
Yeah.
He's a real bad guy.
Yep.
And he is.
But he can manipulate you. That's what makes him extremely scary to me.
Yes.
Is that he is definitely violent, strong, and can hurt you.
And
but he can also manipulate situations, understand your next move, use your reactions against you. Like, that is scary when you have someone that's brutal and smart.
Yeah, he's calculating.
Yes. I almost don't believe how smart he becomes in this movie, because he comes from a kid who went to jail who couldn't read to this really smart person because he read a bunch of law books. Like,
my sense is that he was always intelligent. He just never had the opportunity to learn. And he didn't become smart. He just was smart, and he had 14 years to plan this shit.
And he had resources. Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. But here's beyond that though. It's like he knew enough to know that he shouldn't have gone to prison.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he should have known, or he knew that the girl that he went to prison over was promiscuous, and that was going.
He didn't know that at the time. He didn't know that at the time.
He didn't know that because that's when he started like digging up the doing his own case over.
Yeah, that's right.
Is when he found that information, the information that Nick Nolte buried as his public defender, which may not have gotten him off. Which to me, it's kind of like, man, was the legal system really that shitty? I guess it was. That would have gotten him off.
I hope not, but it's good enough for the premise of this movie.
Well,
I don't think that would have flown today.
Well, here's the thing. In 1977, when he committed this crime,
right?
If they did that history and they found out that she had X number of lovers, it would have at least introduced doubt.
Cast enough doubt, right?
It's plausible for the story, right?
Right.
And he knew, and he considered that enough. This public defender, he was like, yeah, this could sink the whole thing. I know this guy's guilty. This guy has told me the things he's done.
Yeah.
That aren't even this case, right? It's a hard position to be in, to be quite honest. Like, it's not a position any of us want to be in. Have to make a decision.
No, I mean, he has an obligation to defend Max Cady, and he does not. And it's almost like this movie is a lot like you reap what you sow, right? Like,
True. That's exactly right.
The word that's used is that he should have zealously defended his client.
Yeah, I mean, that's in the law books.
Yeah.
That's,
right.
Yeah. So,
I'm not saying that what he did was legally right, but it is still like,
it is ethically incorrect, but possibly morally
correct. If I do my job, some other 16-year-old girl might and probably will have the same fate as this one. That's a hard thing to live with.
I think most people, if they put themselves in the position of Sam Bowden, would theoretically make the same choice.
I agree. And that's why the audience wants you on Nick Nolte's side here, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And we are on Nick Nolte's side here. And we are. Whether or not he made the wrong choice as a lawyer, we don't care because we don't want a guy like Max Cady on the street.
Yeah, I mean, society.
Which is why the law system exists in the first place, so people can't do this shit, which is kind of funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, as a society, we will collectively skirt a lot of shit if it makes somebody feel safer.
Right.
Yeah,
and usually honestly, that someone is our own self. It's like, yeah.
The way you said earlier, the executioners, Jason, may be based on the house scene later. Mm-hmm. I think the name is based on Nick Nolte taking himself as judge and jury.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So basically the movie opens with Max Cady.
Hold on a sec. Just to continue with this theme, well, not to put too fine a point on it, but I mean, it ultimately does devolve into taking the law into your own hands again, right?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Because the law continues to fail even Nick Nolte as a lawyer.
Yes.
And in protecting his family, right?
It fails everyone. It failed Max Cady.
It's an indictment of, if anything, this movie is an indictment of the legal system.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't want to lose that thought.
Yeah, no. No, I mean it's truly apt. But anyway, so the movie opens, I mean we meet Max Cady instantly. I mean, we see he has got the scariest tattoos because it's all about revenge and about equaling the
scales of justice,
biblical revenge, even.
Yeah.
Yes, everything is biblical except for Loretta, who for all we know, he did chop her into 52 pieces.
Oh my God, I love that scene. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Creepy as hell.
But he is muscular. He is working out. He is the embodiment of bad shit coming.
Yeah.
And I mean, he even walks into the camera like he is coming for somebody.
He physically bumps that fucking camera and they don't take it out of the edit, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's like he's got a whole he's got a whole cart of books that he's read. He doesn't want them. He's already read them. He's already read them.
Yeah.
So he's being released from jail. He has been. Now, by the way, I would think his tattoos would probably work against him in his parole hearing.
Yeah,
it's like the Bart D. It's Sideshow Bob's fucking tattoos of Die Bart Die. It's going to work against him. But anyway, he gets out.
There's also a Night of the Hunter reference in that his tattoos in The Simpsons, because he's got love and hate on his knuckles, like Robert Mitchum, but he's missing fingers, so it's LUV and HAT.
Yeah,
with the long
A. Yeah. Yeah, so he's and it's German for the Bart the. Anyway, and like
die Bart die.
Anyway, so it's like you would think that this guy, everything about him, he shouldn't be back on the streets, but he may not be able to actually remain in jail. He may have served a sentence too.
Right.
But because they even say later that they've discovered that he's that he killed somebody. They could never really pin it on him, but it had to be him.
Yeah.
And so it's like, this guy is bad news, man. And he stops off at he decides to go see Problem Child.
Yeah.
At the theater.
Yeah. And laugh hysterically. Yep.
At nothing that's funny, because that movie is not.
Because that movie is irredeemable. Yeah.
But he lights up a cigar.
It seems kind of offhand, right? Like why he's there at this point.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
And so it's like he sits right in front of
the Bowden family.
The Bowden family. And he lights up his cigarette, and of course his lighter is a titty lighter.
It's his big old cigar.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's got a big cigar. He has the biggest cigars in this movie.
Yes.
And he's just going off. And Nick
foreshadowing, bro. Foreshadowing.
Yeah. And Nick Nolte is like, hey man, cut it out, and he won't do it. And so he's like, we better get up and leave. So he kind of relents there. And Juliette Lewis gives him hell at the ice cream shop. It's like, you used to be a boxer. You could have kicked his ass.
Yeah.
And he sees him in his car watching them. And
he buys their ice cream.
Yes,
yeah.
And then
he's
sees
it's already taken care of by that guy over there.
That guy out there. And so he sees him, and he's like, ooh, okay, let's not sit outside. There's something weird about this.
Yeah.
But he doesn't recognize him.
No.
It's not until later that the next time they interact, which is when Nick Nolte and Ileana Douglas are getting handsy at the handball.
Racquetballing.
Yeah, they're racquetballing. They're almost going to racquetball, but he calls it off.
Yeah.
So this is interesting to call here because Nick Nolte seems like a loving husband.
Yes.
Who would never, right? Who would never do something like that. Like he draws a line, but it's just interesting to note that.
He is.
He's a little too handsy for sure.
Well, because he's like trying to teach her how to. And it's like, dude, it's like come on.
I mean, if you're talking about cheating, if you're talking about cheating, he's already emotionally done it, right? Like he's drawing the line at physical. Technically,
exactly.
He was a little physical.
It is possible because he does say later, it's like, oh, she's just infatuated with me. It's possible that he's infatuated with her infatuation of him.
Yes,
and at least that far, and probably a little bit further. And if he knows what he will do if they keep racquetballing. But
he's like, we can't do this anymore. To have kind of a tete-a-tete about it, and then he's like, well, I got to give you best out of 7. So he's like keeps putting himself in the occasion of sin, as they would call it in the Catholic Catechism.
Right? Yeah, not theoretically. Definitely he wants to do it, but he won't.
Right. Exactly. Yes. And again, it could be that he is infatuated with her infatuation, which is probably leading them down this path.
Right. And you find out he has a history of infidelity, so he's probably not the best steward of his own impulses. Let's just say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So he he basically gets into his car, and Robert De Niro confronts him. It's like, hey, look at you. You can go wherever you want with whomever you want. And it's like, who are you? And why did you take my keys out of it? That's...
Oh, that's an alpha behavior.
Bowden is really, really kind of calm in the situation that I would have been fucking pissed.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But
I think he may be a little intimidated.
A little scared.
Right?
It's like, that's fucking Robert De Niro jacked all to hell. I'm not fucking with him.
Well, he didn't know it was Robert De Niro. He thought he was Max Cady.
I know. But anyway, but that's when he's like, oh, yeah, you're Max Cady. It's like, yeah, I'm glad to see that you're out. It's like, where are you at? And Max Cady makes it very clear that he wants to settle down here in this small town.
Yeah.
So he's gonna be around, and this is a guy that he knows, he fucked over, basically. And yeah, so it's like at this point, like he's, and also there's this whole other case going on that he's leading a case for his boss's daughter or something, or son-in-law or something. And that seems real sketchy as shit, too.
Not seems, it is. He says he would have to commit perjury to...
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
continue.
like every
So
time
it's
that's all
interesting.
brought up, it's like you're really kind of getting the idea that he's willing to bend a lot of rules.
Yeah.
Except
then-
for he doesn't in that case. But
He
yeah.
doesn't in that case,
Right.
but he's basically being directed to find a way around something.
But then the same guy is judging him for withholding
Exactly.
evidence, which is
Exactly.
hilarious.
Yes, it's so funny because at that point now he's being judged for, it's like Nolte saying, "No, I'm not going to do your fucking thing that would get me in trouble. I have to find another way." And then when it comes back around, then the other guy's like, "Oh, tisk tisk," so fuck off.
Well, I think he's kind of like, because we don't have all the information there yet. We don't know that he's going to have to commit perjury to do this thing, but they both know it in that scene. And while whatever his name is, I can't remember, the senator is like, "Oh, tisk tisk," he's kind of like goading him, like, "You've done this before.
Yeah.
Like, you could do it again, right?"
Right.
Like,
And it's for me and my family,
yes.
and so it is awfully telling how the law and order system is manipulated for individuals' own gain, essentially.
Benefit, yeah.
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 But yeah, so we eventually we do find out that Jessica Lange has a beloved dog, a big shaggy dog that ends up dead, that was poisoned, and they don't know how. This he gets the call about this at a time that's like not particularly great because he's having to deal with this case. He's dealing with Max Cady, and then he starts putting things together that Max had to have killed their dog. And this really kind of starts the downward spiral. It starts because like Jessica Lange is never the same after that. She's already kind of tenuous as far as her mental state, it seems, because it seems like she's really stressed out with work. And the dog dies, and she's in rough shape for the next several minutes of this movie. And Nick Nolte is not really being supportive, except for the fact that it's that motherfucker Max Cady that had to have done this.
Yes, and they also have a 16-year-old daughter.
Soon to be 16.
Yeah, soon to be 16, Danielle. And she is very sheltered by her parents, but even more so once they realize there's a danger. Because she, meaning Lee Bowden, had seen Max Cady on the fence or the wall of their home a few nights before the dog dies. Right. And they start being very protective. And even Nick Nolte, or Sam Bowden, is not forthcoming with her either.
Right.
About who this man is. So there is a lot of lying.
Yes. Well, and on top of that, it's like Juliette Lewis is in summer school because she got in trouble for smoking pot.
Right.
Which they don't necessarily agree with, but they also don't trust her with anything. And I mean, I think we need to just kind of call this out. Danielle is very Juliette Lewis plays this character very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because she comes off very sexually curious and generally maturely curious about things. And she is presented and shot and acts in a way that is a little uncomfortable, and it's hanging raw meat out there for Max Cady.
Oh, for sure.
It's big bad wolf shit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And she is really good in this because it's an icky part to play that way when you're already in real life underage playing a younger person.
It's a very believable 16-year-old in my mind, right?
Sure.
And yeah, she's playing basically her age. She's probably using a lot of her life, and how she would react to things, how she would react to parents' authority. She's obviously intelligent, right? So she thinks she knows best, like most 16-year-olds do.
Yeah.
She sneaks sexy books off her parents' bookshelf to get that curiosity sated,
right?
And yeah. I mean, the one thing I definitely remember, I mean, outside of the fact that she sucks Robert De Niro's finger.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, wonder whose actual was that his actual finger? Because it's not off camera, isn't it?
No, it's on camera.
No, I mean, like, is he on camera?
Yes, his shoulder, and you see.
I'm just saying it could be a stunt thumb.
I mean, I don't know whose they would use. He sticks his tongue in her mouth. Yeah. So I'm assuming it's his finger.
Yeah, right.
That's unsettling.
But the next time we see her in the movie, she's lounging around in her underwear, and it's something I definitely remember because I saw it when I was 14 for one, and for two, I was like, oh. Now that I'm like in my 40s, this is going to be a little bit more awkward watching this movie.
Well, her father tells her to put some clothes on. You're not a child anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. But like at the same time, she's trying to express that she isn't a child.
Right.
Anymore.
What a hypocritical statement, though. Like, this is the rub with these folks, like, and Nolte, and like being a parent, and why I somehow relate this to last week's movie. It's like, you can go too far with this shit, right? Like you can hurt your child because you were treating them. You were treating them like a child when they should be growing, right?
Yeah, when you infantilize them, it becomes a whole different thing.
Juliette Lewis should be growing here. What's interesting about that whole dynamic, right? And we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but Max Cady, when he does the whole thumb thing in her mouth and when he's very sweet to her, it's like the thing any kid, male, female, whatever, would want, right? But he's manipulating
a fantasy.
Yes, but he's manipulating the shit out of her.
Yeah.
Her father, who is very aggressive and more aggressive than he should be, kind of mimics an unwanted advance from somebody. Like somebody other than family, right? Or maybe even in your fucking family. But he is acting naturally, right? Like he is scared for her, but he's too forceful in it.
Yeah.
And Max Cady is manipulating her. It's a really interesting kind of, I don't know how to explain it, because I would want a parent to act like him to try to protect their kid. Right, but he's a little too aggressive.
Sure, but
they haven't raised her in a way that shows that they trust her,
exactly.
And
that's the part that sucks. Yes,
and now they're trying desperately to make up for all that lost time, right? Because they know the big bad wolf is at the door, and guess what? He's also, giving your daughter her sexual awakening, and he's the absolute last person on earth you want that. And then they're justifiably, at least Nick Nolte is justifiably freaking the fuck out about it, but he has improperly raised his daughter to this point, and he's kind of stuck.
And he's kind of pushing her.
The only way he can
him.
Protect her at this point is by going more in the wrong direction.
Yeah. And he's pushing her in his direction,
right?
Yeah.
Because he treats her, quote unquote, the right way.
If I were him, honestly, like they try to shelter her, protect her too much from him.
Yes.
In the beginning, if I were them at this point, I would just put all my cards on the table.
He would. The 16-year-old girl stay the fuck away.
I would show her the photographs. I would tell her everything. Like, this is not the person you want to be around. Just let her see it all. Trust her with the information.
I'll tell you, it's a little murky, It's a little murky. I get exactly what you're saying, and I kind of agree with it. But it's also a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
That you don't want to scar emotionally.
Fair.
With this stuff. So it is like, I can understand both sides of that argument. I'm not saying you're wrong, because I'm very open with my children about stuff, but man, that would be weird.
Yes, maybe not show her the photographs, but be honest about who this guy is.
Well, yeah, because
he raped a girl.
He wasn't even honest to his wife about what he did.
Right.
No. He's sheltering his whole entire family.
And he's constantly playing catch up because of it.
Yep.
Right? And,
well,
and that's
could
playing
argue
directly into Max Cady's hands.
He's been playing catch up since 1977.
Right. Yep.
I mean, he didn't realize it, but he is, which is interesting because that's not long. He sent Max Cady away not long after Danielle was born, which was probably his impetus.
But he's also used to hiding shit from his family. That's his MO.
Yeah.
That's what he's been doing, since the reason they moved to New Essex is because he was hiding shit from his family and they wanted a fresh start.
You could argue that he hides things from everything, every corner of his life. He not only is he hiding,
except for Joe Don Baker, he tells him the truth about everything.
Well, because he's Joe Don Baker. I tell Joe Don Baker the truth about everything, especially the fact that I got a fucking Mitchell poster on my wall.
Yeah.
Anyway, but no, he would. I mean, he is a person who is. I mean, he's a lawyer who bends rules. So already he's hiding stuff.
Yeah.
So every part of his life is about obfuscation.
Obfuscation.
Yes, thank you. I don't even know why I wanted to go to that word.
I don't even
pronounce it. But anyway, yeah. So, So Joe Don Baker eventually comes into this movie as a private eye, but this is after things have really started to escalate.
Yeah.
And Robert Mitchum and Gregory Peck show up in this movie, which is great because they are a reversal of their characters from the original. The good guy is Robert Mitchum, and bad guy is Gregory Peck. Essentially.
Yep. Well, yeah, Gregory Peck, bad guy is kind of
but he is protecting Max Cady.
Right. Max Cady knew he was the best lawyer, the one that Nick Nolte would go to. So he got to him first.
Yeah.
To enforce the what is it called? The
restraining order.
Restraining order, thank you.
Right, which is funny because Martin Balsam is the one who does that, and that's who Joe Don Baker is playing.
Yes.
That's great.
I love the reveal of Gregory Peck, like the camera pan up to Gregory Peck. Iconic, and as a lawyer, but like the total opposite lawyer that he played in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
It's a really good subversive, use of him. Yeah.
Yeah. And Robert Mitchum's like, hey, I can't. It would be immoral for me to tell you to, how to get rid of this guy, but you need to find a way to because they do bring him in, and Robert Mitchum has him has basically right in front of them behind a reversible mirror to get body cavity searched, essentially just to lean on Max Cady a little bit,
right?
That in and of itself is not great.
It's abuse of power, yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
And the hope is from Robert Mitchum, even though it is really not going to do anything, but the hope is if we lean on him a little bit, he'll just leave or he'll fuck up,
right?
And we've got him. He does fuck up, but they can't get him.
Yeah, this is a weird one. All right, so what happens? Let's talk about what happens first with Ileana Douglas and Max Cady.
So Nick Nolte was going to go meet up with her to finish that series of racquetball.
Right.
And he stands her up. So she decides to go out and get drunk, and it's like the 4th of July or something.
Yeah, there's fireworks everywhere.
Yeah, it's like party and fireworks everywhere. And she is fucking blitzed. And Max Cady uses it.
Yep.
And he's just sitting there talking to her at the bar. And she is spilling her guts. And he knows who she is. And he's just being
manipulative.
Well, yeah, I was going to say he's being a little nice to her, but he's being a creep.
Oh, he's totally being a creep. And
she's drunk. But she's drunk. And he's using that against her.
Yeah.
Well, she like every one of us have been in a situation where you're like the whole 52, hack him into 52 pieces or 40 pieces. Maybe not that.
I've been in that position. You've been in that position, Chuck?
The position where you will joke about beating somebody up and they find it funny is what I'm saying. Like, she doesn't take him seriously.
Oh, right. Like I'm going to kill that guy.
She thinks they're being
right?
playful. She thinks they're being playful.
Yeah.
So he's being honest, right? In a way. And she is just like, oh my God, this guy is fucking hilarious. Again, because she's blitzed. That line where she says she's a little bit small and he's like, well, maybe I'll hack you up into 40 pieces. Is hilarious and fucking chilling at the same time. I'm using the word chilling right this time.
Yes, you are.
But yeah, she's not taking him at face value. She's thinking he's a funny dude.
Right. Yeah, and she's
but he also
inhibitions down.
And he also knows that she's a clerk. He also knows what he might be able to do to her and how that's going to potentially be a real fucking problem for her and for Sam.
He kind of gets lucky this day because
this is a big risk. This is a big fucking risk on his part. And to be quite honest, so he what does he do? He beats her up pretty bad. He bites her cheek.
Yeah, he takes a chunk out.
Takes a chunk of her.
Spits her skin out. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean he and then puts her in a hospital, obviously, and everybody knows it's him. She tells, I think, even somebody that it's him, but then she doesn't want to press charges. Right. Now, here's the problem I have.
No, the person she tells is Robert Mitchum. The right person to tell.
Right. She tells the police chief or whatever he is.
The lieutenant. Yeah.
Yeah. And but he's like, but here's the problem. She doesn't want to prosecute. She doesn't want to testify. The state has the option to prosecute anyway, and they usually would in a case like this where there's enough physical evidence. I mean the fact that she told Robert Mitchum, that could be used in court. The fact that there is a bite mark on her cheek pretty much just.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think we lost Jason there for the time.
I was curious. Yeah.
No, I think we lost Jason there, but that's so. Yeah, I get that. I do think that it could be dicey because, again, if they look into why she was doing what she was doing, which could be a question that could come up, she may not have to answer it on the stand, but it may be entered in as evidence.
I think Jason's point is that regardless of what she wants to do, she has already named him so they can use it in court. The problem is they're probably going to lose, right? Would be my guess, because they don't have the witness willing to say, this is the guy that did it to me. So yeah, Jason, I was just saying I'm semi in agreement with you here because of the fact she's not willing to go on the stand and say this man did this to me or be a witness or accuse him. The state, even if they tried to try him for this, may lose.
They may lose. All right, so I froze in the middle of my litigation.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
Like right in the middle of me of my letters to the jury here. My plea to the jury. Yes, they may lose without her testifying, but man, they could probably prosecute this. It would be a risk from a prosecution standpoint, though, that they would lose. You're right.
Right.
And is Max Cady really that smart that he knew she wouldn't want to drag this into court like that?
I agree.
Some of these things are not believable to me.
This is the thing in the movie that drives me nuts. Yep.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think the thing is that he's betting on the fact that, well,
it's a bad bet. No matter what he's...
One of two things could happen. If she does decide to take it to court, one of two things could happen. Sorry, I'll take that back. One of two things can happen at this point. He thinks either she will not drag Sam in to court, ruin his marriage, make all of that go bad, and he's going to walk scot-free. Or she does, and she does end up ruining Sam's life, in which case he kind of gets sort of what he wants. Now, he gets more if it goes one way, but he would get what he wants either way.
But what have they really done? They've played racquetball.
Yeah, but the thing is,
what of Sam's life is there to ruin here?
Right, there really is.
Well, a little bit, maybe a slight impropriety.
Well, there could be
the fact that they played racquetball together. I mean, I don't know. That's not really life ruining.
No,
and at the same time, you have hope.
But it could create suspicion within. It could crack the family apart.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it gets a whole lot worse.
Well, it does.
And at the same time, like, her whole rationale, while it sounds good when you're listening to it about people don't believe women, like, I totally understand that. All of that stuff makes perfect sense, but you're talking about a guy who did 14 years in fucking prison for doing this before.
Exactly.
Like,
technically he got it for battery, not for
battery. But he battered her.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's done it.
He would at least get that.
He has a history of this.
I mean, the physical evidence of the bite mark itself that they can match to his dental, his teeth is that's probably all they need. Like, nobody consents to that, right?
Yeah,
right.
So yeah, that drives.
It's a flaw in this movie for sure.
And maybe honestly, it's a remnant of the older part of the story that it remains, but it's it doesn't quite work
to see if they could match dental records in the 60s or whatever.
Oh, I'm sure they could, but the whole thing of
1991 they can for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, but at the so this basically gets Nick Nolte to now he's it's like Joe Don Baker, let's party. And Joe Don Baker says, "I'll bring the Subway giant sub." And
we're gonna eat fresh tonight, bro.
And we're gonna drink Pepto mixed with Jim Beam.
Oh God, that is so gross.
At least he explains it.
He does. This is his dad's favorite drink.
Yeah,
I have to. You can't just put something like that in a movie and not acknowledge it.
I'm gonna make one. I'll be right back. Don't get to the end of the movie.
Oh my goodness.
So. But anyway, no, we all know that Joe Don Baker's a Schlitz man. There's no fucking way he's drinking anything that's more than $50
I pick him for
bottle.
JMB personally, but
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like hams might be on the menu tonight.
That's his chaser.
That's his chaser. Yeah. Anyway, I love Joe Don Baker.
He's pretty good in this movie.
He is
really
good
in this
because Nick Nolte is kind of right. Like, when he shows up, you think, this guy's going to fix it.
Yep.
But then he gets fixed.
Yep.
Because like almost right away, Max Cady makes him. Like, and it's because Max Cady just knows what to look for. Now,
Max Cady learned all the things in prison. He's a little too smart for me in this movie, honestly. I know you said he was probably always smart and then he learned to read, but man, he uncovers every fucking thing you try to do to him.
Well, Kursick, who's Joe Don Baker, he kind of exists in a world that Max Cady is probably used to. Max Cady is probably used to people kind of skeeving on people and being, and possibly hiring guys to beat people up.
Yeah.
Shit happens in prison. It's like I'm sure he got fucked up from pissing off the wrong guy in prison.
Well,
Dude,
he
got raped.
He talks about it.
Yeah.
So he started lifting weights. He started getting big. He started, and he doesn't necessarily anticipate getting jumped because he takes some pretty good shots. Like a lesser man, a physical man is gonna get beat down, but he overcomes them physically, powerfully, like by sheer force of will. So, yeah, he's prepared his mind and his body for this.
Yeah. That is some all-timer, come out wherever you are.
Oh, that's scary.
That's good stuff.
He is the big bad wolf for sure.
Yeah.
In this movie. The human embodiment of it. Oof.
Yeah. So he does, and oh god, the other scene that's just when he calls Danielle and he has her listen to the Do Right Man song.
And when he's hanging upside down in the fucking doorway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's like
all
De Niro.
of that is,
that's like De Niro at his best, though. Like,
he out De Niro's himself in that moment. Yeah.
Like, I have a feeling they were like, just sit in the bed and do this, Robert. And he's like, no, I want to fucking hang upside down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the thing from Michael Keaton and Batman a couple of years ago. Anybody got that? I'm gonna hang upside down. Yeah, but the song is the whole conversation doesn't seem right.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's preying on a young girl. It's not that it doesn't seem right. It's not right.
It's not.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, yes, and you're right. He's using what somebody that age wants to hear from an adult.
Yes.
And as an adult, we know. It's like.
I mean, if it was coming from a good place, it's
not
a
right.
little skeevy.
It's not right. You don't directly communicate with the student without
not in that way.
Not in that way, and not with the parent.
You can convey that message without like destroying the parents in the process, and be a helpful adult. Right? Like, believe in yourself. Do these things. It's good.
Right.
But he obviously.
But I'm gonna play this song for you. That's. I mean, like,
that I know you like because he's living in her walls. He's like,
yeah. Well, at least he didn't play Backdoor Man by the Doors.
She would have liked that, though, probably. All right, continue.
Anyway,
Press on, I think.
So he, so this is when she shows up for drama class. And the moment she walks into that fucking auditorium and sees nothing, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
She's smart. She should know. She's curious. She's curious. The guy said the things that she wanted to hear the other night. So she continues on, and he's smoking pot. What she's in summer school for.
Right.
And she sucks his thumb.
Oof. Yeah.
And
he asks, "Can I put my arm around you?" It's like, oof.
It's like,
that whole scene is just the height of uncomfortable. It's suspenseful. You don't know where it's gonna go. You don't know how.
Well, you know what he's capable of, and you know how young she is.
It might be the most well-acted scene in the whole movie.
It's probably what got them both. Well, De Niro gets it for the whole body of work, but it's probably what got her the nomination.
You know what's great though, is who defeated Robert De Niro for the Oscar that year?
I don't know.
Anthony Hopkins. It took fucking
wow.
It took Hannibal.
It took
Lecter.
a night of the round table to beat him.
I mean, the scene with Ileana Douglas feels like a Hannibal Lecter scene. It really does. I mean, it almost.
Well, at least for Hannibal, or at least the movie Hannibal. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he bites the guy's nose off.
Yeah, he does.
Silence of the Lambs. It's like,
yes, he does.
What the hell was going on in 1991?
So that's interesting. That whole scene too, like
what was in the human psyche in 1991?
Yeah,
same as today. Nothing good. But that scene is really, really ultra important, right? Because she believes him, like beyond any kind of reason, right? Like,
Yeah.
she knows in her heart of hearts that he killed their dog,
Right.
but his explanation, like, she's overcome by this suave dude, right, who like makes her feel important
Yeah. Yeah.
in a world where she doesn't feel like an equal, where she can think like herself. And he's, like I said earlier, preying on her suppression by her own parents.
Right, and
it's kind of like a theme from the last movie a little bit.
Yeah, and he finds out what her, like what she read. Has she read anything that is informing some of her sexual curiosity? And it's something that he knows about,
Well,
and
part of me thinks he knows what she's read because he's watching them.
nah,
Right? Like, he knows the buttons to press because he's in their house every night. It feels like you get that impression. You never see it.
well, Nick Nolte
Necessarily.
sort of sees it.
Yeah. I mean, you get the impression that he's in their house every night, right?
Yeah.
So he knows.
I mean, it is good though later when Nick Nolte thinks he sees him, and that's what makes him realize he's always been in here.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
locked him in here with us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which then kind of snaps Danny out of it because she sees the violence that he's caused at this point.
But and that's in the end of that theater scene when it's almost like Katie lets her off the hook by leaving, right? And she runs away in tears. I mean, she tells her parents that he was there.
She's
right?
very conflicted.
She is. And like she knows that was a dangerous situation that she put her in, she put herself in, right? But she's still not convinced he's bad. But
She knows she shouldn't enjoy it, but she enjoyed it. Like,
there's a psychosexual thing happening there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of her arousal.
I mean, in a few years, she goes on the road with Mickey. So,
Right. Yeah.
like, you could see this being the awakening of Mallory.
Right.
But,
Yeah. If they went on a cross-country murder killing spree, I mean, yeah.
no, what she would have done years later is what I meant.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I know, but with Max Cady. Right?
Oh, with that shirt, with
Yeah.
Max Cady, yeah.
She's you wanted her to be smarter at this point, right? Because even if the least of what he's done that she knows is that he poisoned the dog or killed the dog or whatever, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
That's real bad, right?
But maybe it is smart to allow him to think
Oh, I
that
don't know.
he's impacted her.
I don't know if I want to
think
give her
she
that
is.
emotional intelligence. Yeah.
But she does kind of use that against him later. So maybe she does have that emotional.
Well, she does use it later because it's in her toolkit. But I don't think that was always the plan.
Probably
was to put
not.
that in her toolkit, right?
Probably not. You're probably right.
This is something I'm just looking at just a side note. The MTV Movie Awards
Oh boy.
nominated Juliette Lewis and Robert De Niro for Best Kiss.
Oh no.
That's almost Razzie kind of like bad.
No.
That is a bad call. That is a bad call.
Wow.
I don't know, maybe it was a good kiss. I don't know. Maybe
That's
I'm joking.
disturbing.
it is disturbing.
Huh.
Yeah, because what's weird about that is, and this is, I mean, this is weird, but what are those awards geared toward?
I know exactly. That is just wrong on so many levels. That is tone deaf at best. Holy hell. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Did it win though?
No.
Really
Good. Because I want to move on from that and get to some teddy bear suspense.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay.
So yeah. Anyway, so Joe Don Baker shows back up the real hero of this movie until he isn't. He shows up and he's gotten some fishing wire out of Sam's tackle box, and he's stringing up all the doors, and he's wrapping everything around a teddy bear that he's going to stare at 24 hours a day.
Oh my God.
With a gun. And like somebody asks, like, or I think it's Jessica Lange who's asking him, like, what's this? Because if that thing moves a quarter of an inch, I know somebody's in here.
I don't know if the Holy Ghost is sneaking inside or something.
Yep, that's exactly what he says. I guess we should also say real quick, they set up this whole thing because of so Robert De Niro's gotten a restraining order against Nick Nolte. Robert De Niro ends up getting hurt because at that point, Nick Nolte is so pissed. He goes to Joe Don Baker and he's like, remember you told me you could hire some guys. I want the guys. I want the hospital job. And he's like, all right. And he sends guys out, and that's when Robert De Niro overpowers them. But
also important to the story, the night that happens, Nolte goes and tells him he should leave town.
Exactly.
Yeah, he felt like he needed to warn him. Yeah,
right, which was the dumbest thing to do anyway. Because
that's what you're going to say. I'm sorry.
No.
Max Cady's playing chess and Nick Nolte's playing checkers.
1,000.
Nick Nolte's not even playing checkers. He's playing like, I don't know, like solitaire. He's not even on the same type of board. He's playing 52 pickup.
He's playing war with himself.
Yeah.
He's playing tic-tac-toe on the window.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly right.
So he's like, he did warn him, but then the attack came, and all of that led to an even worse thing, which then gets Gregory Peck to say, hey, he should get disbarred for what's happened to my client, which then means that he's got to go and defend himself in this disbarment hearing that's supposed to be in Raleigh. So he fakes the whole thing about getting on an airplane to go to Raleigh and hoping that they could trap Max Cady in essentially a kill box at this point. And, because he thinks that if he leaves the two women alone, he'll come for them. And then he'll be there waiting with Joe Don Baker. And Joe Don Baker's probably still eating that giant sub from Subway.
One thing I want to say, though, if you didn't think this movie was an indictment on the criminal or law system or whatever, that whole scene with the judge and who was it Gregory Peck?
Gregory Peck, yeah, we talked about this while you went to the bathroom or whatever.
Oh, I'm sorry. Doing all the religious mumbo jumbo.
Oh, well, we didn't talk about that.
We didn't talk about that.
That was fucking weird.
Yeah.
Martin Balsam says some iffy shit in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, that's the moment you should finally realize, like, yeah, they're talking shit about the system of the law here.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. Exactly. And it's all a farce, really.
Yeah.
That scene is a farce. And it, again, shows how it does not work the right way.
But it's also showing how
in reality is working in the right way.
Katie knows now how the system is set up to screw whomever has the right power of wielding it, right?
Right.
So
and he is doing it.
What he's learned, what's been used against him, he's using it now and to his advantage. Yeah.
Exactly. And
I like the way that whole thing comes down where the judge is going to impose the, what is that called?
Restraining order.
Restraining order, thank you.
Yeah, I had trouble coming up with that earlier too.
I'm sorry for bringing up something you guys talked about.
No.
Continue.
But anyway, so oh God, when he brings up later that he is well within the 500 yards, it's fucking hilarious. But anyway, but anyway, so he so basically they're trying to use Lee and Danny as bait.
Yeah.
But a bait for Joe Don Baker and for and for Nick Nolte to do the deed.
I like how you do half of the names right and half of them as the actors.
Yeah. Well, I know.
It's whatever comes in his mind first.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Don Baker is always there. So,
Claude Kursick.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Kursick and Sam. Yeah. So Kursick and Sam are going to basically do the deed, but the bear does move on like the second or third night. And it's because a shutter is open and there's a rainstorm or something going on outside.
I mean, theoretically, that should have been locked, so I feel like Katie opened it.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, I did.
Probably.
Most definitely.
Because what ends up happening is that Joe Don Baker gets hungry, as he does, and wants something that the maid is going to make for him, not realizing that
It's Norman Bates.
it's fucking Heath Ledger. Norman Bates,
one or
Heath
the other.
Ledger. Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
if you
and
didn't
it's
think
Robert
this
De
was a
Niro.
Brian De Palma film, it's one now.
And
That's hilarious.
earlier when Sam was fucking around on the piano, because that's how he thinks, is by tapping keys on the piano, he realizes there's a piano wire missing, and that piano wire goes into Joe Don Baker's neck fat, and
Yes.
he gets
Karate right there.
yeah.
Yep.
So some piano wire foo later. He's dead.
And there's almost some funny shit here.
Oh,
Like,
it's
almost
weirdly
funny.
slapstick.
Yeah.
when he starts
Yeah.
sliding around in Joe Don Baker's
Yes.
blood.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they stole that from Halloween too.
Yeah, it
Whoop,
felt
whoop, whoop, whoop.
man, it really felt like
it needed that whistle, like the rip.
Yeah.
swoop. It really does feel like Sam is just out of his depth at that moment. You're like,
He's fucked.
You're just fucked. You can't do a
Yeah.
goddamn thing right. Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, because he got his maid killed. He got his private eye killed.
The
They
private eye
leave.
got himself killed, but
Well, sure, but like
this
he
was his
hired him.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but But anyway, quite frankly, everything that's happened has happened because of something 14 years ago that
Right.
Sam did bad. But anyway, so then
Well, Danny sees the trauma that they've been trying to shield her from all this time.
Yes. And it's
guess
much
what?
worse.
She finally realizes that, this is a bad guy.
because Lee tries to say to Kursick, it's like, if there's a June bug in her room, she would take it outside. And he says, well, what if it's a 6-foot June bug? To which everybody just laughs.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
You guys are terrible.
yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. So now the plan is run to the houseboat.
Yes, and they're on the water. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry.
Well, no, you
We're
gotta
on
talk
the
about
water
go-
now.
You got to
What's that?
talk about going to the houseboat because
That's true. They flee the scene. Yeah.
Because here we go.
scene-
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
So, so they leave, and he gets on his car phone. He's like, yeah, I know it's bad. I left the scene, but just do something about it. I think he's talking to Robert Mitchum.
He's
think.
he's
think
talking
so,
to the
too.
sheriff. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
Mitchum.
That's Robert Mitchum.
Lieutenant something or another. But anyway, he's like, I know it's bad, but it's bad. It's bad.
We'll
And
come
they-
back when you fucking catch him. Is
Right.
basically what he says.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
they're not going to be able to catch him because he strapped himself to the bottom of the car.
You're fucking beautiful.
And oh my God, when he gets out and he starts stepping on all those rakes, it's so fucking funny.
He's like O.J. Simpson in Naked Gun. That's
was-
weird.
I was going back to Simpsons on
I
that.
know
yeah.
you were. I know you were.
But it is Simpsons, but that's also
Oh my God.
fighting on Naked Gun.
Yeah. What's the other thing about that Simpsons episode? When they're driving and it's like, oh, who wants to drive through the tumbleweeds or whatever in the desert? And everybody goes, me. And then Sideshow Bob says, no. He's like, well, it's like, you're outnumbered. It just stares off into.
I don't remember that Simpsons episode, but that has to be a double joke because O.J. Simpson gets caught under the bus.
Yeah.
in Naked Gun, like he's riding the car, and he does all that dumb shit where he steps on the rake and he burns his hand, and
Yeah.
in the first one, so it's got to be like a double Cape
Well,
Fear.
the whole
Naked Gun
thing,
joke.
yeah. I mean, like the whole thing with I don't even remember why all but it ends up there's a rake on the boat later when he gets onto the boat in the Simpsons episode. It's great. Anyway, I think that's one of Conan O'Brien's episodes. Anyway, but yeah, so he strapped himself to the bottom. And like that is, you cannot get rid of this guy.
No.
I mean, that is terrifying.
He's a parasite.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, he pays a guy to basically motorboat him out to where they're headed. Now, later that night, there is like a squall. I think it's what he says it is.
Yeah, it causes a squall.
And it starts knocking the boat around. He's got to go out and
He's got to check the anchor.
He's got to check the anchor. He's got to make sure everything is good. And Katie shows up, and he just, because of course he does.
He lifts him up
Yeah.
from on top of the boat, lifts him up by his head.
By his chin, yeah.
Yeah, and pulls him up on top of the boat and essentially just puts him to sleep. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And he ties him up, and he goes into the boat, and he handcuffs Lee to like a railing, and he throws Danny into the hold. And there she finds some lighter fluid and some matches. So she's looking for a way to, and basically the plan is it's time for everybody to basically watch his trial of Sam.
Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the girls are going to act as the jury, and we are going to be the judge. And that seems pretty fucking great too, actually. Pretty good.
Well, I think he appoints one of them as jury and judge, but yeah.
No, he says you two are going to be the jury, and he looks up at the camera for the judge, because the judge is he doesn't need a judge. He just needs the jury.
God is the judge then.
Yeah, pretty much.
From his perspective, because he's all, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much at that point. So, anyway, so basically he has to admit that he buried the evidence.
Right.
And eventually, he's going to take his sentence, which is he's going to rape Danny. But she lighter fluid and lights him up on fire.
Oh man, that's so great, because she gets the lighter fluid that was in the keep.
Yep.
And and pulls it, and she hides it. And when he goes to light a cigar, she sprays it on him. She doesn't even hesitate. It's so good.
Yeah.
And his whole head goes up in flames. Love a good live burn.
Yeah,
Yep.
and this is all actually the impetus of this, or why he's distracted, is Lee offers himself to him as a kindred spirit. He isn't going to rape Danny anymore. He's going to make those two, the husband and Danny, watch him have sex with the wife who's offered herself up. And then he's like, well, it's time to celebrate, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit, I don't know if Danny realizes that he was the dude in the theater. It'd make much better sense if she did.
No, she says that. She knows.
She knows.
She said he was the dude in the theater?
She said she said that in the theater. She said that she's like, you're the guy from the movie theater.
Okay, yeah, she did say that. She did say that. You're right.
Yeah.
So she knows that he has this giant lighter and want to smoke cigars. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I forgot she said that.
Yeah, and so he
jumps out the window into the river.
Yeah, so he
gotta put his head out.
He's got to put his
Yeah.
head out.
Put
But
your
then
head
he
out.
comes, but
Put
then
your
he
head
comes
out.
back and he's all like pussy and like all goopy.
He's got blister burns.
Yeah, and he's still coming at them, but the boat goes into unprotected water and collapses into a singularity.
This is point 2, where this movie kind of mimics the last movie. An act of God changes everyone's fate. Right? Like everyone's barreling towards this certain fate, and then an act of God, which would be,
A rock.
the rock. And
The rock.
crippling the boat. And the girls get to jump out, and Sam is like hiding, and fucking Max Cady's insane, and he locks his ankle to the rail.
Yep.
Which is, it's pretty awesome.
Well, and he's
Go down
gonna
with the ship.
he's gonna
What's
crush
left of
his
it.
head with a boulder.
Oh yeah.
Well, they start throwing rocks at each other. Well, they start hitting each other with a rock, and to which Max says, "Oh, look at that! We're just two lawyers working, talking business. We're talking
love it.
something like that."
I love it.
And then he's like, "Oh, you are well within the 500 yards." He has gone absolutely insane at this point. He also begins.
Who has?
Well, everybody, but especially Katie. Katie is just I mean, he's just over the top at this point. He's going to get his head crushed by a big rock, and it gets swept out into basically a whirlpool. Mm-hmm. And he starts speaking in tongues, which only proves the speaking in tongues is ridiculous and stupid and sounds funny, because he starts talking like the Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
He goes, "Blah, blah, 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 blah,"
He must have filmed this after he was hanging upside down from the door frame. I'm pretty sure
because all
he
the
didn't
blood.
have all the blood. Yeah.
Yeah. So he goes down with whatever he's chained to, and but as he goes down, he stares one last time at the man who basically fucked him over, who he tried to fuck over. And apparently the family never talked about it anymore.
No, we didn't even talk about that, how it opened with the beginning of the story from Danny and then closes with the story from Danny. It's kind of creepy the way she tells it.
Yeah.
Like, is there something there with her still? And that's kind of why actually Stephanie made the joke first, because at the end of the movie I'm like, she probably kills people, and she's like, not for a few years. She's talking about natural born killers, but it's like there is kind of a creepiness to her retelling. Am I wrong there?
Well,
She
no,
feels a
it's-
little off,
Well,
even more so than having gone through this.
well, partly it's the way she talks throughout the whole movie. There's a weird kind of this kind of weird, like, deep but almost sing-songy type of way that she talks.
Southern Belle.
Well, not really even that. It sounds. She talks a little bit like somebody who's trying to sound more grown up than she is,
Maybe.
but at the same time also nervous about what she's saying.
Well, I think she's reading a poem or like a short story about the experience, but because metaphor. Because she says the way she starts is with my reminiscence, and then she goes on to recite these words, and then they show her almost like she's in front of a class or something. It's almost like my summer. What did you do on your summer vacation?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
We fought a jacked up Robert De Niro who's very scary,
Yeah.
and Joe Don Baker died, but not by choking on his Subway sub like we all thought he might.
Jesus.
You and this fucking Subway sub. But even the way they end it, like with that red, like, I don't know, man. The way the music is used in this movie, I just have to bring this up.
Well, it's the music and the negative that it uses often is it sticks with you, man.
Well, let me recite what she says at the end, and we can talk about it.
Okay.
So she says, "We never spoke about what happened, at least not to each other. Fear, I suppose, that to remember his name or what he did would mean letting him into our dreams. And me, I hardly dream about him anymore. Still, things won't ever be the way they were before he came. But that's all right, because if you hang on to the past, you die a little every day. And for myself, I know I'd rather live."
Yeah.
So when we talked last week about how kind of the Magnolia is kind of like you have to acknowledge your past and you have to consciously get rid of it while letting go, right? You can't just forget it, right? Like you can't, you have to face it if you're going to really let it go, right? And then there's a lot of ways this movie's about that too, right? Like Max Cady is the human embodiment of facing your past, right? It's thrust upon Nick Nolte's character in this. But then when the way she says, because if you hang on to the past, you die a little every day. It's kind of like, all right, what is she preaching there? Is she preaching, hanging on to things you've already let go? You can't do that, or is she preaching that you shouldn't face the things in your past because you'll die a little every day? So it's kind of like I don't know, whether or not this makes her, gives any kind of allusion to her becoming a psycho killer. I don't think so, but that's just me.
Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of a joke, obviously, right?
I know, but I don't think it's meant to be ominous so much as a warning. You know?
Hear me out here. I'm with you. I'm with you on what she says.
I hear you.
But the line is from Exodus 8:2 and Magnolia, so maybe it was added later if P.T. Anderson is to be believed, right? Like, I had no idea.
What line?
The book says we may be through with the past, but the past ain't through with us.
Right.
That is what's his name says.
Right.
She's saying that in this movie that we can't linger in the past because we might die a little every day.
Right.
But in this movie, the past comes for you, even if you buried it.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So she might be thinking this is the way to move forward, but even the reality of the story is the past has come for you.
So she's repeating the sins of her father.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I buy that. I buy that. Yeah. I buy that for sure.
And when he comes back in Cape Fear Part 6,
Deus Ex Machina.
When he comes back in Part 6, Max Cady lives, and he now has super crazy zombie powers because for some reason
he had them already, man.
Right. Well, okay, fair enough. But yeah, then she'll know that she fucked up by not dealing with that past.
Yeah, but I think she's maybe not learned the right lesson.
I agree.
Well, it's not like she's getting great lessons taught to her by her parents.
No, I think it's another theme that Magnolia presents is that parents are not doing right by their children, and she's not been done right by.
No,
for sure.
No, she has. Her father put her in this position.
Yeah.
And not only did he escalated at almost every turn. Yeah.
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 It's kind of like there are no coincidences.
This is something that happens. Movies have similar themes.
Yeah. All right, you just cheapened it there, Jason.
But it's funny. It's funny.
I like this movie quite a bit. It does feel a little dated to me. It feels very early 90s to me, but I like it.
It feels like fucking 80s De Palma is what it feels like.
Well, it does have that. It does have that.
I love the way this movie looks. I love the way it's shot. I love almost every shot in this movie. But Yeah, you don't. They don't shoot movies like this anymore. You're right. I mean, it's kind of an era look for sure.
Maybe that's why it feels dated. It is like,
but it was even kind of a little late for its time. Honestly, I mean, it to me it is like, I read that Martin Scorsese did this movie because he traded Schindler's List to Spielberg.
Wow.
Because they had been respectively been developing those two movies, and they traded because neither one of them wanted to do it. Spielberg didn't want to do Cape Fear. Scorsese didn't want to do Schindler's List. So
Good
they
choice.
traded, and then Scorsese said he wanted to make it as kind of a thank you to, was it Universal who put this out?
Yeah.
For backing him on Last Temptation of Christ, because he knew that they put up with a lot of shit around the controversy for that, and this was kind of a thank you because he figured it would make money, and it sure did.
That's such a dumb controversy around.
Yes,
Amblin's still mentioned as a production company.
Yeah. Spielberg stayed on as producer.
Well, yeah, because
but he didn't
Still
want his
kids-
name on it.
It's still Kids in Trouble, is what I was.
Yeah.
well, yeah, because
You guys wouldn't let me get my joke out.
but yeah, because it's got Marshall and Kennedy as executive producers, so yeah, it's an Amblin.
But it totally does feel like he's like, all right, I'm gonna make this movie, and I'm gonna shoot it like a De Palma film, and he fucking did. Like he didn't say he was gonna do that, but he did. He shot it like a De Palma film.
I agree with that.
I'm gonna do a De Palma, basically. Yeah, it's. I mean, I would maintain that if you showed one person in a vacuum all the films of Martin Scorsese minus this one, and all the films of Brian De Palma, and then you showed them this movie and asked them which director made it, all of them would pick Brian De Palma.
Well, you have to remove the credits, though, right?
Well, yes.
I'm joking. Well, it's Martin Scorsese. His name shows up twice. Jeez. I called him Martin Scorsese. Jesus.
Martin Scorsese. Anyway, yeah, I like it too. I really like this movie. I did not see this movie in a theater. I did not probably see this movie until the late 90s on VHS.
That would be my guess for me too. Yeah. It was years later, but on HBO. I've
seen it several times since. It's probably been a few years since I've seen it for this viewing.
It is way so it's been a lot of years since I saw it. It is way more. It's not real brutal. Yeah, one of the scenes are brutal. It's a pretty brutal film, like way more than I expected.
It's menacing.
Yeah.
Even when it's not violent, there's the threat of violence the entire movie. Yeah.
Well, it's like staring down a junkyard dog.
Yeah.
You're just waiting for it to lunge at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Chopper six balled in this one. Six balls in this one. Jesus Christ.
You're having trouble. Anything else to add, gentlemen?
Not I.
I can add what's coming up next and where to find some stuff.
Yeah, just do it.
Do it.
Next week we gotta truck on down to Little China for some trouble.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah. So Big Trouble in Little China next Wednesday morning. You can find all of our stuff at filmseizure.com. You can also find where you can follow us on social medias. You can find us where where we are putting the stuff out there on the various podcast sites. So you can do those things if you fancy learning more about some of the stuff we've talked about. On Monday, I have Monster Mondays. This week is an episode of the War of the Worlds TV show. Probably the last one I'm going to do for some time or maybe ever. Just because I can't believe they actually got 43 episodes out of that show. Because those aliens are kind of stupid. Anyway, so that's this Monday. This is a fairly big weekend here for my site, bmovieanima.com. First up, I've got on Friday a review of Lurkers. Not a bad movie, but definitely better stuff from Roberta Findlay, who made that movie. But check out that review. But this Saturday, I have the shortened season 6 or season 4 finale, episode 6, Terror Squad, starring Chuck Connors, filmed in Kokomo, Indiana. And Chuck Connors runs over a guy, an old guy who's just trying to walk along the street with his groceries. And Chuck Connors is chasing terrorists, and he runs over the old guy. And he doesn't stop, and he's a cop. I don't know. It's great. It's a 30-minute chase scene that is just fantastic. Just fantastic. I wish I was in Kokomo when they were filming that. Anyway, so that is over at bmovieanima.com. But the really good stuff, is going to be Big Trouble in Little China next Wednesday at filmseizure.com. So until then, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Scorsese.
I'm Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.